Hello, I'm Tagi Kanagawa, and welcome back to TNG Academy. In the last episode, we went over the basics of how FR Legends physics work, both on Toge attack and non-Toge attack tracks. In this episode, I'm going to be doing my best to explain to you all how to drive at the limits, no matter which physics you prefer racing on. I'll be going into how my driving technique works and why I use it. This will hopefully help you understand what you might be doing wrong and what to change. Now, before we dive into my exact steering technique, I'm going to talk a little bit about how the grip budget of your car works. This is because the fastest laps don't just make use of all the track, they also make use of all the available grip as they take that line. If you remember from my last video, I mentioned that the grip budget your car has at any moment in time is directly correlated to the exact speed you are traveling at that moment. Simply put, the lower your speed, the higher your available grip. The higher the speed, the less grip you have to turn with. To help you visualize this, imagine that a portion of the steering slider is highlighted to represent the range in which you can steer the car before it slips. As you speed up, the zone shrinks. As you slow down, the zone grows. This is important because the way you maximize your speed is by staying on the edge of that constantly changing safe zone. I have spent hundreds of hours over this past year trying to figure out a way to consistently dance on the edge of that safe zone, no matter how long I've gone without playing, no matter what setup I'm driving on, and no matter what physics I'm on. I've done it by doing top-down analyzations of my replays and forcing myself to describe with words the exact feeling of what I'm doing with the car. I was literally taking notes for my muscle memory so I wouldn't forget the feeling. I would go into my notes, read a sentence I wrote down the last time I set a personal best time, and like flipping a switch, I would return to my previous form. Over time, these notes would evolve, so it would take me less and less time to flip that switch on. Now, I could just give you those notes, but the fact of the matter is that they just got so foreign sounding over time that they probably only make sense in my head. The good news is that I know all the ways I've described it to myself so well that I should be able to very simply describe it to all you viewers, so here goes nothing. The way I would describe my steering method is like stretching a rubber band. To help you visualize what I mean, here's a clip of me driving with the slider placed dead center and above my car. Now, when you think of trying to stretch a rubber band as far as possible, do you yank it or do you just slowly pull it away from whatever it's hooked onto? You slowly pull it, right? Because as you pull it, you can feel the tension in the rubber band changing as it gets closer and closer to snapping. In FR Legends, that same logic applies. I slowly pull the slider away from the center point, and with enough practice, you will slowly start to feel when your steering is approaching that snapping point. Right now, you're probably wondering, how on earth do I practice? How do I develop the ability to sense when my car is going to snap? And it's actually pretty simple. When you drive, you need to always maintain tension on the rubber band. Now you're probably asking yourself, what does that translate to in FR Legends? Basically, it means don't straighten out the steering unnecessarily. You may feel like on areas like the starting straight of Gunside that you barely need to steer, but look closely at the slider. Since the straight leads to a right-hand corner, I'm taking a line and steering in a way that allows me to have tension towards the upcoming corner. I never return the steering back to dead center. This is because the farther away from the center point I am, the smaller of a distance I need to move the slider, which means I have more time to place it exactly where I want it. I'm trying to spread out all that turning force throughout the entire corner to attain the smoothest line possible and to carry the most speed, instead of adding it all as I start to brake for the corner. Pay close attention to the slider. Doesn't it almost look like it's dragging the car around each corner? that's a sign that you're using the proper steering technique. If you ever slip mid-corner and look back at your recording, I guarantee it's because without realizing it, you made a mid-corner yank on the steering. This mistake is caused when you're trying to maximize your exit, so you end up straightening out the steering a little too early. Then when you realize you're going too wide, you try to add steering to correct it. The reason this is always causing you to slip is because as you straighten out your steering, your rate of acceleration is increasing, which means your grip budget is shrinking, right at that crucial moment when you're adding more steering input. This is why you need to learn to maintain tension on the steering to prevent your grip budget from shrinking mid-corner. Now, I know that was a very long-winded explanation, but I said in episode 1 that this will be the one and only guide you will need, so I'm not leaving anything out. Now, you might be wondering, does any of what I've just said apply to Toge attack tracks? And the answer is yes, absolutely. In fact, what I've learned grinding away in this game hasn't just applied to non-Toge attack and Toge attack tracks. It's applied to basically every racing game I've played since I started working on this formula. Don't believe me? Go look at someone playing a sim racer that has one of those steering telemetry HUDs. Tell me the movement of that dot or wheel doesn't mimic the movement my slider makes in relation to the car. I'm telling you, I may have stumbled into a simplified explanation to the grip racing formula. Totally worth it. The only real difference in Toge attack is that due to the higher grip and acceleration, straightening the steering too soon is punished more quickly, but also less severely, since if you overcorrect, you only start to understeer instead of slipping off the road. I know that this video was very long-winded and detailed, but hopefully it was easy enough to understand and good enough to help you realize how to dance at the edge of grip in FR Legends. Of course, if there's something you have questions about, feel free to pop into the TNG Discord and ask away. I'll do my best to clear up any confusion on how you may have interpreted my explanation. This will probably be the longest video of the series, but don't worry. I'll still have a few more interesting nuggets to share on the topic of racecraft and FR Legends, so be sure to stick around for that and more to come on this channel. If you feel so inclined, please make sure to like, subscribe, and discuss the video in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. Stay safe.